We're going to do public comment period with anybody that's online.
Right, and then we'll move number 6 up to the top.
What?
Then we'll move number 6. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna do public comment, and then we'll move number 6 up to right after minutes.
Or would you rather do him first?
Let's just try to keep someone in order.
Just so the public comment doesn't get too.
Yeah.
Number 3 on the agenda, public comment period. For those people, those board members that are online, if you want to make comments, this would be the time to do it. This is not normal, but we're trying to couple everything into one little basket here. So if you have any public comments, you can do it now. Thank you. Anyone have any public comments?
This is Glenn Carlson, Chair Pufal. Is this an appropriate time to comment on item 6?
No.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well then I will go ahead. Good morning and thank you, Chair Pufal and members of the Executive Committee for this opportunity to address you regarding the law enforcement agreement with the town of La Pointe. My name is Glenn Carlson and I am the chair of the town of La Pointe. As I wrote in a letter to Chair Pufal this week, which you may or may not have received via snail mail, the town board of La Pointe urges you to keep the county's commitment as expressed in the budget you approved in November to continue funding this agreement through 2022 at least. The town included the amount in its own budget and tax levy calculation in reliance on the budget adopted by the county. Reneging on your commitment at this point would raise legitimate questions about the reliability of Ashland County's word in the future. And in this case, words are more important than numbers. We are, as always, more than willing to sit down with county officials in advance of next year's budget deliberations to discuss the feasibility of changing the way by which the county fulfills its law enforcement obligations on Madeline Island. However, we would consider any reduction in funding for 2022 to be a breach of trust. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Do we have any more public comments? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment period then. And we'll move on to approval of the executive meeting minutes from November 30. We have a motion by Bill Metzinger,
Yes. Marty Vitek, I'll second it.
seconded by Marty Vitek. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the number 6. We're moving up. Approve giving the town of La Pointe 30 days notice of intent to end the law enforcement agreement. And we have the district attorney here who'd like to speak to that.
I am here at the request of the administrator. Excuse me. Thank you, Dan. I'm here at the request made yesterday to me from Administrator Grady. I do not have anything specific to say at this time regarding item 6. And in my position, either officially or personally, don't have any position on item 6, but I would be willing to answer any questions if I can that may relate to that agenda item.
Yeah, well, but the issue is your experiences with the jail lately, and your experiences with the jail lately, how it's affecting the court proceeding.
Yeah, to the extent that I'm not sure that relates to item 6, but I'm here. I can answer that question because I think it appears to have budget implications, which are implicated by items 6 and 7 in terms of funding for the jail. I would only offer at this point that it's certainly from the perspective of my position in office, and I believe the judicial system. I've spoken with Judge McKnight about this. The jail faces difficult funding issues at this point. And the jail has wide discretion as to how the jail and the sheriff's department obviously have wide discretion as to how to try to deal with those issues. There has been, and we are not in a position in our office or in my position to require or instruct the jail as to how it's going to fulfill its obligations. In the end, though, I think it's obvious that as the jail has tried to deal with those issues, there has been an impact on the judicial system here in Ashland County, and also our office, in that the inability to accept inmates has an impact on the system, in that defendants who are on warrants and are not able to be accepted by the jail end up in a sort of limbo situation, because the court's policy is that you need, if you're on a body only warrant, you need to turn yourself into jail rather than just appear in court. And in those situations where the jail is not able to take the defendant who does want to get off a warrant and appear, as I said, is in a bit of limbo. The inability to take defendants also has some impact on the ability of the wellness court to issue sanctions, or the effectiveness of the sanctions that might be ordered by the Judge McKnight in wellness court, if those jail sanctions cannot be effective. And again, I'm not saying that either the judge or myself or our office are in a position to require and tell the jail what to do. There just has been some impact, which of course I think ultimately relates to the financial resources that the jail has to deal with the serious issues that it's facing. Obviously, the housing of women inmates in Douglas County presently presents some logistics issues for the judicial system. We are doing everything we can to work through those. But that's basically the situation from our perspective. We obviously would like to see those defendants who are arrested and require detention until a bail hearing is held, that the jail be able to take those defendants. But again, we all understand the jail is trying to deal with serious resource issues. And I'm more than willing to take any questions, based on what I had to offer.
Mr. DA, we've heard over and over again that ending this agreement with the town would result in the town deciding to get rid of their own police department, and which would mean the county would have to spend a lot more money ferrying inmates to and from the island. So is it, in your opinion, is that correct? That the county would end up spending all the huge amounts of money on ferries, or?
Well, the only thing I could offer there is that I don't have any information or knowledge about the overall financial impacts if the county were to assume responsibility for law enforcement on the island. What I do know, and obviously that would involve for sheriff's department personnel costs to get to the island. The one aspect that I am aware of is to the extent that the defendants who are arrested on the island have to be transported by ferry down to Ashland to the jail. We do have a state statute which imposes that costs on the defendants. When the case is resolved, those costs, as I said, are imposed on the defendant. I can't tell you that defendants are always able or willing to ultimately pay those costs, but that is one statutory way that those costs are addressed.
This is Supervisor Metzinger. The way it is right now, let's say there was a murder on the island, the county sheriff's department still has to get involved, correct? It's just not the La Pointe Police Department. It would be, the county would have to have some input, into investigations and everything else right now.
Well, yes, you have to look at, and certainly Sheriff Brennan can talk about this, but you'd have to look at the way, such an incident would play out. And certainly an arrest on the island would be handled under most circumstances by the police department there, and transport to the jail if there was an arrest. But in terms of an investigation, certainly the sheriff's department would have involvement there.
Right now, I read what the agreement was, and it says we pay $135,000 a year to the La Pointe for the police department. But I was reading this and it said we were responsible for a half of a squad car. And we were responsible for several other things. Is the 135,000, is that what it usually is? Or is there years that it's more? Or is, because there was all sorts of different things that the county, like tires, gas, and everything else we were responsible for. So it's not just salary?
No, it's not just the 135,000. The 135,000 has been there since that contract was approved. And I forget the exact date. It's on top of the contract. So yeah, that county has been making that a payment since that it was approved. I believe it was 2008. But before that, there was a different amount. There was a different agreement for payments. Yeah, and yes, we do pay for a car. I believe it's one every 4 years.
We pay
Michael,
half. We pay half.
Yeah, Michael and La Pointe, you can clarify if I'm wrong on that. So yeah, and I'm not saying that we have to give up on the car. It is useful for the county to have a vehicle there. So have vehicles there.
Anyone else?
I still have, right now, we budgeted this amount. And the town of La Pointe must have done some budgeting because they figured that they were going to get this amount.
Right.
And I can see possibly changing this, but I just can't see the county pulling the rug out from the town of La Pointe. I guess I would like to see the town of La Pointe get something and then have it reduced in a number of years so that they're just not surprised. Now they're losing $135,000. I know the county has needs for it and they have a use for it. And I just feel it's wrong to completely take the $135,000 away at one crack. I would like to see it scale down, maybe we give them 20,000 or something and cut it back that way, in 2 or 3 years, end it. That's just kind of, if I was in La Pointe, I would say, geez, you really pulled a rug out from us and where we go get $130,000 but I can see the correctional officers needing the $80,000 for the raise. I can see that, but I guess, I would be kind of inclined to keep some amount at least this year and at least that, and then next year they have to come up with more, I guess, but rather than get that big surprise all at once.
Well, we did offer to let them keep 55,000 of it. We would use the 80 that we need for the correctional officers and they would keep the 55. To date, there hasn't been a response on that.
Okay, so right now it's got the 55 going into the contingency fund.
Right, and then so we could amend the budget amendment to say it stays in La Pointe.
Okay, well, I think the town of La Pointe needs to act on that so that the county board, has at least an idea what the town, if they're willing to take that,
Mr. Chairman, I believe Michael, the administrator in La Pointe, has a question or a comment.
Mike Bruin?
No, Mike from La Pointe,
Oh,
the town administrator,
okay.
has his hand up. Mike, you want to go ahead?
Yes, just to clarify on the contract, the $135,000 has essentially been a lump sum payment, from what I can tell, back to 2017, 2018, somewhere in that area. There is a formula in the agreement, as you have all seen, but several years ago, there were discussions and there's been unofficial agreements not to really apply the formula, but simply to have a flat sum paid. We do the calculations up here, and if we were to apply the formula per se as listed in the agreement, the actual county payment would be closer to 145,000 than 135,000. But we realize the county has financial struggles, and we have just put that flat sum in for the last few years.
Anyone else? Matt?
This is Matt McKenzie. I guess as far as this action goes, I agree with a lot of what Mr. Metzinger is saying there about, kind of like pulling the rug out from underneath them. I recognize that we're in kind of dire straits with what we're going to do about our jail staffing, at least as far as matrons or female jailers, whatever is the correct term these days. So I guess I can accept number 6 as far as the intent to give notice, in that the island has not, responded back to suggestions of working with us on a reduced amount. I believe there might be an interest there based on comments I've heard. So, in all fairness, if the possibility is we're going to take money away from them or no longer, honor this commitment to them and have some other, if at all, I think given notice of intent is fair. You're telling them, hey, we're not sure we're going to be able to keep doing this. But then we get to the next part about what should be our commitment for this year. And that's the one I have a little more difficulty with is what's right. And I guess I want to see us be fair. Whether we're right or wrong, I think that's going to be debated for some time to come. And it's going to depend on what side you look at. I think, Mr. Pufall, you probably recall, we've had a lot of discussions in the past in the Finance Committee as far as what to do with this obligation on the island. There's been some horse trading. And that was why, as I recall, we did away with actually going with the formula, and there was an agreement to a specific amount so that both parties involved, the county and the island, could plan on what was going to happen. There's, as I recall, there was some funding of a garage over there and different things like that. It's kind of gone back and forth. I recognize that what creates a little more issue for us is that there's other parts of this county that we don't have these kind of agreements with. And, why not is the question. And when you look at it and you look at the cost of running back and forth to the island, it does add up. We've had these same concerns with zoning as far as how to provide some of that over there. And there's been some agreements there with using some of their zoning administrators in the past to take care of some county business for us to save us in the time that it is to have somebody go up there. So I guess I am here to speak in support of giving the notice. I'm not sure we're going to need it, but if that's where it gets to, I think it's fair that that notice is provided. I'm not so sure about the second half as far as the budget amount, and I think there does need to be some more discussion involved before that decision is made. So I guess I'm not in support of that one yet at this point, but there does need to be some discussion about what we do, and we're all in this together. Whether it's the island or the county, the bottom line is we all are in the same county, and we've got to sort this out. And I think there's reasonable people involved on both sides, and we should be able to come up with a solution with the budget amount. But until such time, I think we need to honor the agreement that we had for now. If Mr. Grady feels he needs to have the notice of intent in his back pocket, I'm all right with giving him that too. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
So, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Kinney asked me to talk a little bit about the budget and the long-term implications of the budget. In particular, he's worried about long-term solvency, whether the budget is sustainable. In my opinion, our long-term budget is not sustainable at our current. Can somebody please mute? We're getting feedback. Or can everyone please mute so we can don't get the feedback? So long-term sustainability. At our current rate, we're going to have to continue to borrow to pay for operational costs. So like we did this year, we borrowed money to pay for operational costs. We used ARPA money to plug holes. We're still looking at about a $400,000 to $500,000 structural deficit. So that means we have to find that much money in revenues or that much money in cuts or a combination thereof. So long-term, it's not going to work without continuing to borrow. Our other problem is our levy. It only went up to $700 this year. There's not a lot of net new growth in Ashland County. And that's our real problem, because the way the state formula works, you only get to increase your levy if there's net new growth. We don't have that. Other communities have huge amounts of growth and their levies going up like crazy. So we have a much tighter budget to live in. We're gonna have to start clawing back money somewhere. We'll also have to recognize that we're still gonna have to give our employees pay raises, even though we all know that our employees now are underpaid. We all know that they're probably close to 80% of what they should be making. And, in many respects, we're going to have to accept that we might be a stepping stone for people because we underpay them. It's not ideal, but that's kind of where we're at because we don't have the availability or ability to keep up with Bayfield or keep up with Douglas County or keep up with, Marathon County or whomever. In fact, we may not even have the wherewithal to keep up the city of Ashland or the city of Washburn. So, going forward, we need to look at every revenue path. Now, can we, as far as the money on item 7 goes, can we find the dollars elsewhere? Yes, we can use ARPA funding, but that is a 1-year fix. That creates a structural deficit going forward. But it does get us past this year. So that is an option if the county board decides to do that. Is there money in the sheriff's department that we can find to sort of fix this hole? Yes, but that's going to create hardship for the rest of the department. And, they're facing a tough enough time as it is. So do we really want to take additional resources away from them? I'm not sure that's a good idea either. Everywhere else in the budget is tight. I mean, let's be honest. We all know that it's tight, and we all know that we're getting unexpected expenses in different departments. COVID has done a lot to HHS. It's created a lot more problems within our individual citizens. Thank God we have the services to provide them, but it does cost us money, as witnessed by all the ARPA money we defederalized this last year. We defederalized almost $500,000, which those are directly linked to literally 20 people in the county. Those are costs that we're mandated to pay by the state. Those are costs that we can't get around. And they're variable in nature. 1 year they could be lower, next year they could be triple what they are now. We don't know. And that continues to create an unknown in budgets going forward. I do think we need to have a longer conversation about the budget. And I know Chairman Berlin and Supervisor Kinney want to do that at Finance Committee, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to be doing that. But I agree with Supervisor McKenzie. There is a middle ground, and we did offer one to the city, to the town, and I hope that they would like to talk to us. Mr. Carlson, yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Carlson.
I think part of the reason that we haven't responded to your offer is that negotiating after we've already had an agreement in place through this budget is like, okay, how much do you want to steal? Oh, you only want half of it? Oh, that's fine. As we've said, we are more than willing to talk about the future, but I don't know why we would talk about the future if your word isn't good from the past.
This is Supervisor Berlin. If I may speak for a second. Yes, I concur with what Matt McKenzie had indicated with regards to this agreement. Matter of fact, I also agree with the chairman as well. And I guess I agree with almost everyone here because Dan Grady also alluded that we could use some ARPA funds for this year, but it's a one-time thing. But then that gets us to the point for this fall, when we do our budgeting, we should perhaps have the township present, at least for this particular line item, as for paring this thing back for 2023. If this is what we're going to do, try to save money. But as for right now, I guess, I don't guess, but we are committed. This county board did take action, passed a budget, and we're trying to pull the rug out from under these guys, which was unfair, without notice to the township at all whatsoever. And of course, now we're trying to negotiate after we've what do you call it, signed an agreement or already identified in the budget that they were going to get X amount of dollars, $135,000. As stated previously too, since 2008 to the present date, Ashland County has awarded the town of LaPointe $135,000 incrementally, and it has not gone up. Obviously, the cost of policing, nothing goes backwards. You know, it just keeps costing more and more and more. And for us to only award them $135,000, we perhaps should have been a little bit more diligent in looking at that when we put our budget together for 2022. However, that was not done. But as for us now trying to reverse that decision, take that money away from them, that's unfair, obviously. But with that being said, you know where I stand. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Go ahead, Pat.
I just want to note that the agreement says that it can be terminated with 30 days notice. So in regard to the discussion about it being unfair to pull it back after it's been in the budget, the agreement has 30 days notice, which is what the county is proposing. And I think from a budget perspective for both parties, they should keep in mind that that agreement could have ended after 30 days notice from either party. So I disagree that the county is being unfair. They're actually proposing to follow the agreement.
Anyone else want to comment?
I just want to point out that this could everybody turn off their mute, please? There's a bunch of feedback. I just want to comment, this issue is going to go to Finance Committee also because of the budget implications.
Go ahead, Bill.
This is Supervisor Metzinger. We have the county sheriff here present at the meeting, and I had a question for him. Besides this $135,000, do you have any idea how much the sheriff's department spends besides this on Madeline Island?
No, Bill, I don't have the top of my head, but I don't think it's very much. We don't go over there to the island unless we're requested to go there. It's just like Ashland Police Department, Mellon Police Department. The Madeline Island has their own police department, so they're self-sufficient. If they requested assistance for anything, we would send deputies over there as needed. So at this point, we don't.
Does Madeline Island and Bayfield County have any type of an agreement for law enforcement?
No.
Mutual aid or anything?
Well, they would have mutual aid at any time. We have mutual aid agreements with Iron County, Bayfield County, Sawyer County, Price County. If there's ever a need that law enforcement is needed and you can't have the resources or logistics to be able to safely do something, you put in a mutual aid request. We just did that the other night down at Clam Lake with 4 deputies from Sawyer County that assist us in an act of burglary with canine units. So we would be able to assist Madeline Island, and we do assist Madeline Island when needed. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but we don't put resources over there. We don't patrol the island. We have had officers over there in the past, especially like during the when they had the ice road out there, where it doesn't cost anything to go across. We'll send officers over there. I've been over to myself a few times, but logistically speaking, it's tough and it costs a lot of money to be able to put resources over there. But we do go over there as needed to help assist with investigations. And earlier, somebody said something about there's a homicide on the island. Well, Madeline Island has their own law enforcement agency. They should be trained up to help a bit, to be able to take care of investigations. If there's something out there that they feel they need assistance on, we have trained detectives that are there. We go over there and we'd assist. Same thing with any other agency within the county. We even have homicide investigations that we do and conduct. We call them DCI. We have the crime lab come in from the state of Wisconsin to assist on that. It's above and beyond something of our resources. So we put that mutual aid request into the state to get assistance. on those investigations.
I guess that answers my question. One further question.
Yeah.
The way it stands right now, if the county should change this, terminate the agreement, give them the 30-day notice, does that mean that they would not get the 135,000 this year? Or is this going to be affected in the next budget?
That depends on the instructions in the motion. The county board could make the motion to terminate the agreement in 30 days immediately and not make the payment. Or the county board could say, we're going to make the payment but we're going to terminate the agreement going forward. So you guys have the choice of doing that, or you can accept a compromise if the town is willing to. So that really choice is whatever you want.
Anyone else? I'd like to address something to Chairman Carlson. We're well aware of the situation that we're in. It's an impossible situation. There are certain times of the year when you can't get on or off the island, and you're well aware of that. I don't know what would happen if you had a problem over there and you didn't have island police. That is a big problem. What I'm thinking about, and I agree with a couple of my board members here. I'm not for terminating the agreement 100%. But I think there should be some kind of a compromise set, possibly paying half. And then we'll deal with the rest of the money in the future or whatever. But it's very important to have your system up and going over there. I understand that. For our sheriff's department to take full responsibility for what happens on the island, that's a real nightmare. That is a real nightmare. Accessibility is at certain times of the year is impossible. And under those circumstances, it's really necessary that the law enforcement system on the island stays intact. But I wish that we could we can move this forward, giving 30-day notice without actually cutting the $135,000 and see if we can't come to some kind of a monetary compromise on this. Thank you.
And just for reference, Supervisor McKenzie saw this yesterday, but and Supervisor, I believe I sent it to Supervisor Kinney and Berlin. Supervisor Kinney had asked a while ago how much money we're spending on boarding inmates in Douglas County. So I asked Ms. Lavasser to put together some numbers. So for December 7th to 31st, we spent $12,300 on 8 to 10 female inmates, and that's for boarding. Another approximately $3,000 on healthcare, and then 30 man hours. So Sheriff, is that deputies or that go pick them up?
That's correct.
So that's $30 an hour plus benefits. So you're looking at well over $1,000 in travel time. So a very conservative estimate is $20,000 a month is what it costs to house 8 to 10 inmates. And I know, so I just mentioned that because I know a couple supervisors were asking for that information.
Any more comments? Okay.
Richard, this is Supervisor Metzinger. I'd like to make a motion that we give notice to terminate the agreement with the town of LaPointe. Send them notice that we're terminating the agreement.
Are there any stipulations to that?
Provided the county board approves it. And I guess we'll have to iron out with the town of LaPointe and the county as far as what we want to do for this year. That's what needs to be ironed out, but we got to give them a letter of intent that we're going to be changing this agreement. And whether we don't follow through this year or cut it back, that's up to the board or the finance committee to decide what they want to do. But we need to give them a letter of intent, correct?
Yes, correct. We need to.
So I would like to make a motion that we give the town of LaPointe the letter of intent that we're going to terminate this agreement with details to be worked out.
Do we have a
Mike
second?
Berlin seconds that.
Second by
Commissioner
Mike
Berlin seconds that.
Seconded by Mike Berlin, right?
Yes,
Thank you. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on this. You think?
Lori, can you please do a roll call vote?
Yep. Dick Poofall,
Yes.
Mike Berlin,
yes,
Gary Mertig,
yes,
Bill Metzinger,
Yes,
Marty Vitek,
Yes.
yep, five yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Did
I
you
would,
want to go?
Mr. Chairman, I would request number 7 be tabled for the time being to allow Finance Committee to have an opportunity to look at this and have discussions with the town.
What are we tabling?
We're tabling the budget amendment. Because the motion from Mr. Metzinger was to figure out how we're going to do this going forward, to discuss with the town.
my motion was to give the town of LaPointe a notice that we're going to end this agreement.
Right, and then discuss this year's payment and next future payments.
Correct. And that's going to be worked out with the finance and brought back to the executive.
Right, so as such, I would request that you table number 7 to allow that to go, to allow that.
All right, we have a motion to table number 7. We have
No, we do not have a motion. That was a recommendation by Mr. Grady.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Here, Mr. Mertig just made a motion.
correct.
If there, I will second that motion. No, Gary Murdock, Mr. Murdock is making the motion, correct?
Yep.
And I would
Yeah.
second that motion.
All right, now we have a motion and a second on the table to take number 7, the budget amendment agreement, and table it until we run it by finance. And then it'll come back to this committee for approval.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, for number 8, you do have several options. You can table until we know what's going on, or you can go ahead and approve pay raises and ask the Finance Committee how to pay for it.
So we didn't do 5.
That 5 is going to come back at the end.
Hmm?
We'll do 5 at the after this.
This is Supervisor Murdock. I would like to table that and forward that to finance also for their discussion first.
Is that 8?
Yes, the correct approved pay for correctional officers. that correct, Mr. Mertig?
Commissioner Berlin seconds that motion.
All right,
Yes,
we have a motion and a second to table item 8, pay increases for correctional officers. We have to deal with this as soon as possible. It's a issue that's not going to go away. It has to be resolved. All those in favor say aye.
Discussion.
Aye.
Okay, discussion, Bill.
I think we should take care of this now. I think we've been procrastinating how long? And I would like to see the law enforcement get their pay increase right now. I don't see them waiting. We have money that from the ARP fund that we have put in there. And by the time the county gets to decide on this, by the time it goes to the finance committee and then the full county board, it's going to be months. So I'm opposed to tabling it.
Marty?
This is Marty Vitek. I'll go along with what Bill is talking about because this has been dragging on for a long time and I think we can pretty much assure the people who are in these positions of a pay increase without going through the whole rigmarole of the finance committee and this drawn out affair that we were talking about. So I would oppose tabling it as well.
So we have to vote on the proposal to table, right?
Correct. The motion and second was to table.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table item 8, approval pay increase for correctional officers. All those are in favor of tabling this?
Roll call vote, please.
Dick Pufall,
No.
Mike Berlin,
Yes.
Gary Mertig,
no,
Bill Metzinger,
No.
Marty Vitek.
No,
So you have 4 no, 1 yes.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the pay increase for correctional officers.
Can you please specify a dollar amount for the record?
Pardon me?
Can you please specify a dollar amount for the record? For, so everybody knows every dollar an hour is going to cost about $40,000. And that would be a $1 an hour pay raise across the board for the correctional officers.
Wasn't your proposal $2 an hour?
Yeah, my recommendation was $2 an hour. However, the record should state a dollar number in the motion.
Okay, with that motion, I'd like to recommend a $2 an hour increase.
Okay, do we have an effective date?
When passed by the county board.
As soon as approved by the county board.
Well, yeah, whenever we're gonna have a next county board meeting, to get approval from the county board or not, and at that time, we'll come up with a date, but sooner the better.
So a motion's been made.
Commissioner Berlin seconds that motion.
What was that?
Mr. Berlin, second.
Okay,
I thought he'd like to repeat the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Berlin. Chairman Pufall made a motion to approve a $2 an hour pay raise for the correctional officers across the board. And to be approved at the next county board meeting and take effect when the county board says appropriate.
Right.
Bill.
What about the jail wages? Shouldn't we incorporate both of those in the same motion?
The correctional officers are the jail wages.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the pay increase, $2 an hour for correctional officers. I guess we'll do roll call on this. Lori?
Dick Pufall,
Yes.
Mike Berlin,
Yes.
Gary Mertig,
Yes.
Bill Metzinger,
Yes.
Marty Vitak,
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. Now we're gonna go to 9.
We can go to wage comp plan now.
Hmm?
Do you want to do the wage comp plan now? These other ones are gonna be really quick.
All right, we're gonna go back to number 5 now, discussion and action on the wage compensation plan and proposals.
So in your packets, you'll have the two proposals we received to our RFP. Both companies have worked around the state of Wisconsin for counties and municipalities. When you compare apples to apples, the numbers are pretty similar. And they'll both end up costing within a few $100s of each other. I know Carlson Detman has worked with Bayfield County. They did their last study. McGrath has worked with other counties in the area too. So they both come highly recommended by all of the administrators in this area. So they both will do a good job. And to be honest, I'm happy with either one.
So,
Commissioner Berlin here again.
Go ahead. Take Mike.
I've reviewed these and I've talked to Dan here earlier this morning and went over some of the critiques that I had. And my vote is for Carlson Dittman.
Bill,
This is Metzing, Supervisor Metzinger. Has Finance Committee looked at this at all? Have they discussed it in?
No, it's going to be on the next Finance Committee agenda, which I anticipate being in about 2 weeks.
Okay, so right now they do not have a recommendation.
They do not have a recommendation, but because of the cost and scope of this proposal, these proposals, and we're having the executive committee, I wanted to have more ears look and eyes look at it. So you can also make a recommendation that just the Finance Committee decides it.
Marty.
This
Yeah,
is Marty
Commissioner
Vitak.
Berlin here again. The question is I have is, are we having a finance meeting next week? Or is this out there someplace else?
I was thinking the first week in February. But we can do one next week if you
Is
want.
it? Well, things are starting to pile up here and, you know, we like to
Yep.
keep our meetings manageable, our agendas manageable, stuff like that.
Yep.
And go ahead.
Well, if you want to do it next week, we can certainly do it next week.
This is
Well,
Marty.
like I said, sooner is better than later, really.
I guess I'm not going to get to talk.
Because I'd like to have it done before the next county board meeting, which is in 2 weeks. Or 2.5 weeks.
It's gonna be the 15th.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd certainly like to have it before then. Because the finance committee is going to have to make a recommendation as well. Thank you.
Marty, you're up.
Okay, the only thing I was going to, this is Marty Vitak. The only thing I was going to say is that both proposals appear to be equivalent and Dan says that they're reputable people. The only difference I can see between the two is one has a total estimated cost, including transportation, and the other one doesn't. I guess I would like to see probably some indication of what the travel cost would be for the second proposal, or at least an estimate, if nothing else, so we can get some kind of comparison. But otherwise, they seem to be fairly equal proposals.
Yeah, this is Berlin here again. I covered that with Dan earlier this morning because if you take a look at page 28 of the second proposal, and that's pretty muddy as to their cost for transport or into work. They make mention of COVID and a lot of their work is going to be remote on their location, not our location. And obviously, at some point in time, they're going to have to come up here. But Marty's correct. It's there should be numbers there. They know better than that. Even though I initially liked proposal number 2 from McGrath, and I liked their 360 concept. And when I first looked at this, I voted for them. But then after I went back and re-looked at Carlson Dittman stuff, I highlighted things, I checked things off, I had questions and stuff like that. And after talking with Dan earlier this morning, he kind of smoothed everything over for me here. And one of the things I like about Carlson Dittman was that they had, I would say 90+% of the forms that they're going to be using attached to their proposal. And as I looked through that, that was pretty thorough. It really is. And that is what's missing on the McGrath, even though it's a 360 chart and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure they're going to cover much, if not all, the same information. And then, of course, with McGrath, they had indicated the first 100 position descriptions are at a number, and anything beyond that is going to be, well, we have 250 people working for us, and I'm not sure how many of the positions are identical positions. So I'm always presuming that we're going to have at least 200 plus positions that's perhaps going to be rewritten or amended, or I'm sure not many is going to stay status quo. Not if we're talking wage, what do you call it, equalization of other counties or other municipalities. So, you know, there's a little bit more that goes into this, but I'd be prepared to make a motion to go with Carlson Dittman if we have no more questions. Thank you.
Bill?
I guess I'm willing to second Mike's motion, but I would like to point out that Carlson Dittman is from Appleton and the other one's from Illinois. And I guess, you know, to me, there should be more information, but I say that I would second the motion provided they recommend that motion is recommended to the Finance Committee and get their input too.
Yeah, this will be on the Finance Committee agenda.
Jared Berlin here again. Do I need to amend that motion to reflect that? Make it so, please, that this motion, once it's passed or addressed, would be forwarded to the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Did you get all that?
Yeah, the motion Mr. Berlin made was to approve Carlson Dittman and to move that to the Finance Committee for final action before the board.
Do we have a second? Bill?
I second it.
Seconded by Bill Metzinger. All those in favor say aye. I don't know that we need a roll on this.
Aye.
Aye.
Approving
Aye.
Carlson Dittman Consulting and forwarding it on to the Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Hey, Chairman Pufall,
Yes.
I have to interrupt it. I'm sorry. I have a meeting in 15 minutes with the governor, so I'm going to sign off here because I got to get across the street. So it was nice talking to everybody, but I have to leave.
Okay, Gary. Thank you.
Okay. Talk soon. Thank you.
Yep. Now we're going to 9.
Yeah, opioid settlement. So the opioid settlement has been approved by every community in the state of Wisconsin that signed on to it. that means Wisconsin will be getting its full amount of money. The dollar amount, the check date still hasn't been clarified yet, but we expect it to be in a couple months for the first one. But we will be getting our full amount that we are quoted. So just wanted everybody to know that.
Any questions?
This
Now,
is,
when they decide on that amount, how is that going to be paid?
Well, they're gonna they'll obviously send us a check for it. There's gonna be strings attached to what we can spend it on. It's gonna have to be spent either the HHS department or sheriff's department on drug treatment.
Okay.
So it's not exactly clear whether that's additional funding or whether or not we can replace funding with it. But it has to be spent on drug
Okay.
treatment.
Bill, you had a question?
yeah, this, we don't need any motion for this. This is just an update.
Yes, correct.
This is just an update and that'll be brought to the county board.
Correct. And it will be, if there's further updated information, I'll be giving that to the county board. I just wanted to keep you apprised of bigger stuff.
Any more questions? All right, then we'll go on to the number 10, the M3 Health Plan Performance Update.
Okay, so this is the, on the screen here and in your packets is the period ending December 31st for our health plan. As you can see, the plan ended about almost $104,000 in the negative. And you can see where the cost per employee was $21,623. So we're hoping that the changes we made last fall are going to erase that $100,000. I know there's been some concern on employees that the rates went up. Well, the rates didn't really go up. The rates stayed at 10% of cost of what a premium actually costs. In this case, you know, the cost per employee at 10% is $216,000. The cost per employee now with healthcare inflation is around $23,500 around there. That's the part we can't control. Healthcare inflation is going to continue to go up. And when we say you pay 10% of the premium, that means 10% of the cost. And that's going to go up every year, regardless of what this county board does, because we don't control inflation. So I just wanted to make that clear. And I want everybody to see where we're at.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm not a frequent member of your committee here, so I'm trying to sort out what I'm really looking at.
Can you use your microphone, please?
I can, I'm sorry. This is Matt McKenzie. You know, I just pointed out that not being a regular member of this committee, I'm not sure what I'm looking at. I understand what you're talking about, but if you could help me translate, what does this really mean as far as if I'm an employee and I have the family health insurance plan, what am I paying per month and what would this change to?
All right, so what you're looking at, this is just a breakdown of our health insurance. The first percentage number you see is the funding ratio. So, you know, every year the county board sets a funding ratio for health insurance. So this year we did 3.5 million, I believe, for the healthcare to be funded at. So in this case, it would show that we spent more, the actual healthcare cost more than what we had planned. And then the next graphic over shows the actual deficit. If it costs less, it would show surplus. And then the cost per employee is actually how much it costs per employee to insurance cost over the course of this year. The graph below is a month by month showing of those three top numbers. So you can see the numbers go up and down. Some months were in the negative, some months were in the positive. But in general, when we're still down $100,000. Let me move this because I can't see. On the far right, you'll see how much the actual plan cost to, and how much actual medical claims the plan paid out. How much we paid out in prescription drugs, which I have to say 300,000 is not bad. And the fixed costs, which would be M3, BPA, and the like. So then there's some graphs here. What it looks like to budget compared to where we're at. And you can see there's not very many months where we're actually at budget or below. There are quite a few of them, over half of them are over. And then the pie graph just breaks down into what kind of claims it is, into another way to look at it. It's just presenting the same information. And then the next page, and this is all in the packet, shows the actual detailed numbers. How much what we're doing shows a stop loss at 65,000. I can say our stop loss paid over $1 million this year, which is probably going to lead to an increase in premiums next year. So our fixed cost for health insurance next year is going to go up because stop loss insurance is probably going to go up. So this graph with all the numbers is just really a month-by-month breakdown of everything. Show you how it works. And how many people, the far right column tells you how many people are actually on the plan.
Okay, so what, if you could just summarize for me then, what is the employees' portion of this on roughly a monthly basis based on an individual policy or a family policy?
Family policy is roughly $238.
Okay, families 238?
About around there, yeah, give or take a few dollars.
Okay, and a single plan?
Is roughly 190, I believe.
Okay.
Give or take a few dollars.
And if you had the increase, do you have the numbers of what that would bring those up to?
We don't know what it's going to be. First of all, we don't know if there's enough funding in the plan this year with the change in deductibles until later. We'll have a good idea in August, September. We don't know what healthcare inflation is going to look like until much later in the year. That's dependent on a number of factors. It depends on COVID. Our reinsurance has lost a lot of money on employees and or family members being hospitalized for COVID, which also affects how much the hospitals can charge for other things. And as messed up as our healthcare system is, we just don't know how much those numbers are going to be till later. We hope that nobody catches COVID anymore. By the way, I did send an email out to all staff informing them they can get their free COVID tests in the mail from the federal government. Anybody in this room who doesn't know the website, I'll be happy to give it to you. There's also been an executive order change to health insurances. Every individual covered under the health insurance, and it's not just ours, it's every health insurance plan in the country, is entitled to 8 free COVID tests. So you can go to your local pharmacy and the federal government will pay up to $12 per test. And just so happens 2 tests cost $24. So it covers the cost of the tests. Now, of course, the catch there is you have to be able to get them in stock, which doesn't seem to be very easy these days. If I had to guess, health insurance next year is going to go up again. It'll probably go up again by at least $1,000 a person, maybe more. So if it's $1,000 per person, that means it's going to be $100 per employee divided over 12 months. If it's $2,000 per person, it's going to be $200 per employee over 12 months.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a question for you. I didn't hear you too clearly, I guess, when you
Sure.
were explaining the premiums. What is your family premium?
I believe it's around $238.
238?
Yeah, well, that's the employee share.
Pardon?
That's the employee share, $238. So the actual
And
cost
do
is,
you know what the old rate was?
the old rate was just around 210.
Well, that's not a big increase.
No, it's not. And, you're talking 10% of the increase. And, healthcare in this country has been increasing at double-digit rates every single year. So if you see a $20 a month increase in your health insurance, I mean, that's just inflation, really. And that's really what's causing one of the big causes of the health insurance's programs problems is the rate of inflation is so fast that our premiums and deductibles are just not keeping up with it. We're hoping that this deductible change works and we don't have to do anything with premiums. I'm hoping we don't have to. I'm very much hoping we don't have to. But again, we can't control healthcare costs, and they're just going to keep going up and up and up on us. And we can't continue to take $100,000 losses. So as unfortunate it is, it may require an increase from 10% of premium to 12% or 15%, what have you. It's just the reality of the world. We have to get to a point where we're at least at break even. After that, I say you don't raise anything at all. And 1 year you might have a small negative, 1 year might have a small positive, and they should balance out. But we do have to break even.
Now, what we're up against here is that the cost of living is going up so much faster than wages.
That's correct. Well, cost of living is going up faster than wages. Wages are going up very fast. I mean, when you talk about the economy globally, faster than they have in decades. But yeah, prices of everyday goods are certainly going up. Our cost of doing business, our cost of construction is going up. I was talking to our highway commissioner yesterday, and he's expecting asphalting contracts to go up by 10% at least.
Oh,
And that's due to a number of factors. Petroleum prices being so high. Petroleum is a component of asphalt. The availability of labor. Road builders are having a hard time finding people and having to pay more. And let's be honest, the system's awash of money now, and a lot of road builders are probably going to try to make some extra money on it. So,
yeah, Matt.
Yeah, this is Matt McKenzie again. I just want to make a comment, and I know Mr. Grady hasn't been here that terribly long, but staying on top of this is really important. And, it was not that far in the past that we consistently had between $500,000 to $1 million overrun on our health insurance that we took out of the general fund to balance it. And it has been uncomfortable for some of our employees because the premiums have come up, but that's why they did. And, it's unfortunate that it gets to these raises, but realistically, we're in a much better position than we were, say, 10 years ago when we were having overruns of $500,000 to $1 million. So thanks.
yeah, and I want to point out to the employees' angst about increased rates. I pay those same rates. I don't want to pay more either. I'll be honest. Nobody in this room would want to pay more. But the reality is we have to get the fund to balance. And if that means I have to pay more, it means I have to pay more. It means everybody else has to pay more. We still have to balance in the end. And in the end, that's where our goal is here, to make sure the county's balancing their books. Because that's really what our broader concern is, the good of the entire county, not just parts of it.
I think, Dan, one of the things that we have to look at, and we probably have discussed this, at least glazed over it in the past. First of all, I'm employee oriented, so I'm not in favor of laying anybody off.
No.
But when people retire, we have to look at the possibility of incorporating their position in with something we've already got established.
Right.
So that we don't have to rehire and cut down the amount of people that we're paying. We have a big payroll.
Right. I think natural attrition is one of the ways we can save money. That way we're not getting rid of any individual employee, because I'll be honest, almost all of them do a great job and they work very hard. But yeah, I agree that one of the strategies is either to not fill positions or delay filling positions. I'm in favor of first delaying filling it to see if we can actually do without that position, to see if it can be handled and the job keeps getting done. In the meantime, you are saving money when you do that. But if experience shows us that we don't need that, that we actually really do need somebody in that position, then I do think we still owe it to the public then at that point to hire. But yeah, I agree with you, pretty much everything you say.
One of the things that I'd like to mention, and it's probably not relevant, but years ago when I worked for Greyhound, we had numerous pay cuts. And one of the times that they cut our pay, they said, well, we're not going to give you this mileage rate, but you can drive more miles. Okay, that's not exactly a bonus.
No.
And this is exactly what we would be asking our employees to do. But there comes a time when you have to suck it up and go along with the program in order to keep the ship afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've got to take a long look at that.
Well, I think I can't say I'm categorically against, because if that's what has to happen, it has to happen. But I do think pay cuts should be our very, very, very last resort. I think that's going to chase a lot of good people away. It's going to kill morale in the county, and it's going to prevent us from hiring new people. So I would say that's the absolute last resort. Second to that is pay freezes. That kills morale too. That chases people away. It makes people not wanting to work for the county, and says that we don't value our employees when we do that. So I think that's last. I think our primary goal is, one, to find more revenue. If we find more revenue, that really solves a lot of our problems. And I think that should be really where we're going after. But two, we approve, we're assuming we're going through a Carlson Detman, they might find efficiencies too that we don't know about, because a lot of our, we might be stuck in our ways sometimes. And, so they might find more efficient ways for our current employees to do their jobs better. And sometimes it does take an outside source to show you that. So I think we can improve our efficiencies, and I think we can increase revenues, and I think we can take care of some of those problems doing that. I think we really do need to make sure that we take care of county employees. They're working hard for the people, and for a long time, and still are, they have been underpaid for that.
Matt?
Yeah, this is Matt McKenzie again. I was waiting. I wasn't sure where to bring this in, but since you brought the subject up, that's part of the reason why I'm here today is, I'm in support of seeing the jailers get that additional $2. I'd like to see us be able to take care of some other employees too. I don't, honestly, I don't know everybody that works in this county, and yet the ones that I do know, I can tell you, I'm honored by what they do for us. They really do give their best, and they've been here and helped through the difficult times, and we got to sort something out, and I'm not sure how we do that. But I'm not in support of lasering out specific groups and saying you're going to get this. We need to come up with an overall plan for the whole county, and if we don't do it, we're not being fair. And, to me, that's the big part of this is right, wrong, but at least be fair. And I don't know how we do it. And I think, we need to whatever the consultant can help us on this, or whoever, we've looked at this in the past, and this last year we didn't have the money, so we offered some additional time off. Maybe there's ideas like that, but, we've got to take care of the whole county and, look at what people are doing. And it's going to be an extensive program, because how do we even know what they all do? We need to have performance reviews, and we need to have a clear understanding of what their jobs are. So we know, so if we get to the positions like you're talking about, where we're looking at combining or eliminating functions. It's, is it done somewhere else? And if it is, why is it done somewhere else? And, get that all sorted out. And it's not an easy task, but it needs to be done. And unfortunately, we've already kind of stepped on a couple of people in that we've authorized some pay increases, and, others who have kind of sat back quietly and didn't say anything are now starting to speak up saying, what about me?
Right.
And, so I know as I go about, I do hear some comments, and I don't think anybody looked at this and said, we want to, slight you. But it unfortunately has happened, and we need to have a provision for employees to come forward and address those concerns so that we can fix them. And I don't want to say anything in this meeting, but I'll talk to you afterwards as far as some of the ones that I'm looking at and thinking we need to do better at.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, if we can find a way, we need to look at more than a 2% increase next year. A 2% increase would be sliding backwards, given inflation. So, I do think we need to find the revenues and, at least keep up with inflation for our employees.
Richard?
Any more questions? Yeah, Bill.
I guess I just kind of wanted to mention why I supported that correctional officers increase is because I've heard of several people leaving the county when they've been offered $3 or $4 more an hour for doing the same thing or less. And, we'd be losing some very good employees, and it's not that they want to leave. It's just that financially they can make more money someplace else. And the only thing with the wage study, I'm kind of concerned about what's going to happen to the elected officials. Because if they're locked in, there are people that are working underneath them could be making more money.
Yep.
And that's one of my concerns. But anyhow, I just thought, now you said the finance committee is going to meet in February.
Yeah, the first week in February, assuming Chairman Berlin's okay with that.
So is the executive committee going to meet before the county board then again, or no, or what?
We could if you like.
I'm just saying, because if they get a chance to look at this job performance recommendation, and there might be, they might have hashed out an agreement with the town of La Pointe, and so then is someone going to need to okay their committee? But I do think that they should have either had or possibly have maybe a joint meeting between the finance and the executive whenever they decide it, instead of having, 2 meetings. We could just have a joint meeting. But definitely, I think that, I guess that was my concerns. But I do feel that the county employees are paid low, and I think I wish there would be something we could just go ahead and do. So that's my concerns.
Yeah, Mr. Metziger, we have talked about a joint meeting between the 2 committees, and it turns into kind of a mess. I'd be in favor of it as long as everybody knows the ground rules beforehand. Then Mr. Pufall is chair of the joint committee, and everybody's a voting member as if they were on their committee. And if everybody can agree to understand that, then I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, this is Matt McKinsey again. I understand joint meetings are sometimes an effective and efficient way of dealing with something quickly, but in a matter like this, I would encourage keeping them separate, because I think what it also does is it gives you a second kick at the cat, if you will, excuse my expression. But, you have a good discussion in here, everybody walks out of here and they're happy with it. But then, an hour from now, somebody bumps into you and says, well, did you talk about this? And it's like, oh, no, we didn't think about that. And you have another chance to go back and revise or revisit something. So if it's a matter of speed, I get it. And I think it makes sense because it saves us money as well. But on some of these more difficult things, I really think there's a lot of value in having 2 separate meetings, even though it's a little more expensive. It does give you a second look at something. and maybe you can correct something that you missed the first time.
So having said that, I mean, just a tentative speaking, and I'll talk to Chair Pufall about this later. I'll be in Madison the 7th, 8th, and 9th for the WCA. But we could do an executive committee on February 10th or 11th. And that would be before the next county board meeting.
September 11th, September 10th, I'm leaving.
February.
February 10th, I'm leaving for Arizona and I won't be back until the 19th.
All right. Well, the other option is
So,
there's another option to that. We can the finance committee can meet like February 1st, which is a Tuesday, and then executive committee can meet that same week.
yeah, I'll be here the 10th in the morning, but in the afternoon I'm leaving. So, so we do have a social services meeting on the 16th at 4:15. So I guess I would kind of like to hold the county board meeting a little later, like the week of the 20th, if possible.
Mr. Pufall, if you're okay
But
with
that's
that.
strictly up to you.
Mr. Pufall, are you okay with holding the county board the week of February 21st?
Oh, February.
Yeah. Instead of holding it the 15th, go to like the 22nd.
You said you're going to be gone the 17th?
I'm going to be gone the 7th, 8th, 9th.
Oh, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Okay.
So if you want to do it, I mean, Mr. Pufall is okay with it. We can do it. Certainly do it the week of the 21st when you're back.
I don't know.
That would give finance committee a little bit more time to think about it and a chance for executive committee to meet again. And then we could even hold a second finance committee if we needed to.
I'd just like to say something here. Once again, historically enough, I agree with Matt. I don't believe that we should have joint meetings. We haven't had a lot of luck with joint meetings. I think it just gets to be a nightmare. The problems that each committee has is getting mingled together, and I think we have to iron it out on its own. So I would be in favor of 2 meetings.
So Mr. Berlin, are you okay with February 1st for finance? And then we'll hold executive again in between there and the 22nd?
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
okay. And then,
So what are we looking at for dates?
so we're looking at February 1st for finance. And then
February what?
1st,
4th?
1st, number 1, Tuesday, the 1st.
Oh. Is that finance?
That would be finance. And then we could do executive
The 10th would be fine.
the 10th then. Thursday, the 10th.
Everybody else can make it the 10th.
Mr. McKenzie, are you okay with that?
What did you have for finance date?
Tuesday, the 1st. And just so you guys know, one of the issues that's on the agenda is that pay disparity Mr. Metzinger was talking about. We find that happening in the sheriff's department where the deputies are making more than the sheriff, the deputy sheriff, and the lieutenants. So that a reconsideration of the sheriff's pay is going to be on the agenda. That way we can pay the deputy and lieutenants more. So
Are you scheduling then a full board meeting?
full board meeting then would be the 22nd. And then the board can approve, if they so approve the pay raises for the correctional officers, it could be effective that same pay period or the following pay period, however they want. As long as we don't go backwards and make life difficult.
Is this county board meeting for sure on the 22nd then?
Let's say it's 99%.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, something could happen.
Okay.
Are you gonna be gone yet?
No, I'll be back. I'll be back the 19th.
That'll also give us an opportunity to maybe have negotiations with the point.
Yeah, I think that's really important that the town of La Pointe gets invited to the finance committee or so that they have a chance to meet and say, hey, why don't you guys, the town chairman and have them meet and say, if you want to come to the finance committee, we're meeting on the 1st, be there.
Yeah, and we are, I mean, they've been invited to all the meetings. And, you know, just like the last county board meeting, we let them have some time during the agenda to have it say their piece and answer questions. And I would think it would be appropriate at finance committee to let them be on the agenda during that item and answer questions, you know, just so everybody is on the same page in the county and the county.
I would even suggest perhaps if not a meeting to discuss but an opportunity for those that aren't familiar, it would be not a bad idea if you had the first meeting or one of the first meetings over on the island. You could take a trip over there and they would have a chance of showing you what they think their special concerns are. We'd see, whatever they have there, just a suggestion.
If the finance committee is still willing, we can do that. Otherwise, if they want me to go over there, I can do that. Or if just a couple members of the finance committee want to do that, we can do whatever that people want to do.
I'm just thinking that, with the weather conditions the way they are, you might have the ice road open by the time you're ready to do this. And you
I
wouldn't have
wish I
worry
wanted
about
to
the
take my
ferry
son on
either.
that.
Yeah, I just shouldn't be on the boat.
Yeah, I was hoping. My son wants to ride on it. So.
Okay, moving right along. Any more questions?
I got a question. I don't know if this is a place. I've been approached by a couple of county board members that I point blank asked them why they weren't coming to the meetings instead of, doing it on Zoom. And they said, well, if everybody had to wear masks, then I'd be at the meeting. I just thought, I don't know if this is the place to bring that up, but, I don't know how the rest of the county board members feel. It wouldn't make any difference to me one way or another.
Well, we could put it on the agenda if everybody wants to and have the county board vote on it. I mean, if we're going to make county board members wear masks, then I want the county board to vote on it.
Masks don't bother me. I got a couple of them right in here ready
Yeah.
to go, so it's fine with me.
Yeah, but if you're going to require it, I would prefer the board actually vote on it to put the requirement on themselves. As
Maybe,
opposed to me ordering it or Chairman Pufal ordering it.
maybe we could get the finance and the executive, both of them talk about it and see what they think. I don't care one way or another, but like I say, there's probably 6 or 7 county board members that don't show up. And like I say, I've talked to 2 of them and basically they said, I would never, unless they had masks. So.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you brought it up to both committees, just kind of they don't have to take any action, but.
Sure, they can have discussion on it.
Well, one of the things along those lines that I would like to see happen, I can understand a little bit of concern if you got 18, 20 people in this room, elbow to elbow. But for committee meetings, where you've got 5 or 6 people and we can't get them to come to the committee meetings, I don't understand that.
Well, I know a couple of them had other obligations too. Mr. Mertig, he's going to see the governor. So, I mean, people do have sometimes other things. I mean, and I can understand there are a couple county board members who have relatives that are extremely vulnerable. I certainly don't blame them for wanting to protect their family. In the end, their family comes before the county board does. So.
Well, I think the fact that we gave an option probably opened up the doors for the people that really don't want to be here. And I know I've attended several city council meetings virtually And there are some advantages to it because if somebody's rambling on, you can just shut it off. So there's an advantage to it, but for small committee meetings, I would appreciate it if we could get those members to show up. It's a little difficult to conduct a meeting when you've got people shooting at you from every different direction on the phone and on the internet and, you know, in person. It makes it much easier if they're here. And the mask thing, I don't have a problem with that, but as far as I'm concerned, if you have any kind of hearing problem at all, and you are trying to listen to somebody with a mask on, you're only getting every other word. So if you want to wear a mask to the meeting, and then when you're discussing something, take it off. I think that's the way to go. Thank you.
Use the microphones.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Kinney has been
But
waiting
still,
for a
with a
long time.
microphone and a mask on, it doesn't.
Yeah, but Mr. Kinney has been waiting for a long time to speak.
Pat?
This is Pat. I was just gonna say, I'm not sure we want to get into who has the authority to impose masks or not. If we all agree to it, great, I would certainly support it. I don't know that finance or exec has, you know, a vote that's meaningful on that issue. But what I was going to suggest is if we're open to rearranging the seating arrangement, then those who currently are not attending because of concerns of COVID, if we could at the very least offer to sit them in an area where everyone is agreeable to wear a mask. And then if we have some who do not agree to wear a mask, we could have them physically as far on the other side of the room as possible. And then also with ventilation, I'm not sure, without looking at the room, it's hot water heat, so there's not a lot of air movement, but we might be able to figure out kind of how the air currents flow through that room and seat people if they have concerns in a way that the air currents are moving, you know, more away from them than towards them. So I'll leave it at that.
The answer is the air currents don't move at all.
Matt?
I guess my comments are similar to Mr. Kinney's in the comments as far as a mask. I would not want to see a mask mandate because that just creates all sorts of discussion but I have enough respect for any other board member that if they would feel more comfortable with me wearing a mask so they could attend, I agree to do that. And, you know, I think most everybody would, and it's a simple request. And if that's what's stopping some from feeling comfortable here, let's deal with it and get that out on the table and we can have an agreement. I hope that we'll wear masks so that they feel comfortable returning.
Yeah, I don't think we were necessarily talking about a mask mandate as far as other than a recommendation. We can't really open that can of worms, I don't think.
Well, maybe it should be an item on the agenda for the county board, and the county board could ask everyone to respect their fellow members.
Well, we have to do something because there's members here that we haven't seen in 6 months. Marty?
You know what we could do is because of difficulty hearing when people try to talk through masks, is we could set a microphone up somewhere out of the way where people could talk, just like we were doing in the Zoom meetings. And that way wouldn't expose as many people to the.
You mean every time a board member wants to talk, have them come up to the table?
Yeah, set one up someplace, if that's a concern, you know, that somebody's unmasked and talking to the people who are attending the meeting. We could set that up so that people could talk in one spot, and then the people would maybe feel more comfortable under that circumstance.
Okay, I think we beat that to death. We'll go on then to the administrator updates if there's no more questions.
Well, I can say that my past week has been dealing with snowmobiles. I know, which is a new topic for me. I've been getting lots and lots of complaints about the county snowmobile trails and whether they're being groomed or not being groomed, whether it's parts of the county or not parts of the county. There's about 5 different stories out there on the exact same thing. So I've talked to a lot of the stakeholders. And the actions we've taken so far is we've not renewed the contract we have with Bill Chandler to groom the snowmobile trails in the southern part of the county. That doesn't mean we're not going to renew it later at a later date. It just means we had to do it now if we wanted to not proceed next year because of an auto renewal clause. So we did that just to protect ourselves. We may, like I said, we may renew it later after we get settled here, but we need to at least give ourselves an option. On February 15th, I'm meeting with the Snowmobile Alliance at their monthly meeting. They'll be at the BART building. There'll be a Zoom option. I've asked the president of the Alliance, Pastos, to invite every club in the county, whether they're members of the Alliance or not. Invite them all to the meeting. Let's get everybody talking. Let's get everybody to air their grievances. Let's get everybody to agree on what we're doing right. I mean, even more to the point, that's where we're going to start on what we're doing right. And then what are we doing right that we can do better? You know, we're going to have to come to some sort of resolution here. Mr. Doust is getting me the financials for the Snowmobile Alliance. I've asked for year-end 2020, year-end 2021, the AP register and the AR registers for 21. So that will tell us all the money coming in, all the money going out. Mr. Doust is also getting an inventory of items that are owned by the club and by the county. And Matt Schultz is taking care of that in forestry. So we're going to do everything we can to allay everybody's fears, to show everybody that the Alliance is working properly. And if there are parts that are broken, we're all going to agree how to fix it. So I don't know how much good will get done this year. I'll be honest, I think snowmobile season is going to end next month anyhow, the way the weather's holding out. But we do want to set us up for success going forward. So we're doing that by bringing every stakeholder involved in. And so everybody has a chance to decide, say their piece and help decide how we're going to move forward. I think, and then hopefully there'll be a little bit of peace. But I do know several county board members have expressed a lot of frustration over this. So. That's it. Everything else has been on our agenda. So. Okay, so we finally got one construction company to give us a quote. We're waiting for another company who said they would come and look at it. The first quote was for around $1,200, and they proposed just, they don't want to weld up there because of all the paper and wood and stuff and the possibility of fire. So they're going to bolt some beams, a new steel beam to the one that's rusted out, and then bolt that to the wall. That will be a temporary fix, I'll be honest, but it will get us through, you know, till we can get everything else done. As far as moving everyone, we have a plan to move everyone. We are going to move the probate's office up to the judge's law library. So Sharon will be up in the law library. The probate's office then will become storage for the clerk of courts, which then Brittany and GIS is 100% remote. So we're going to take her office and that'll be storage for the district attorney. And those two by far have 90% of all the stuff up there. The rest of the departments will have to get their stuff and put it somewhere. The clerk has enough space in her office to take her stuff. The extension has enough space in their office to take their stuff. Now, in recognition of who we have working in this building, I've asked Matt Erickson to send a crew up here to do the actual moving of files and boxes. So Matt will be having a crew come up here when we're ready to do that, and Highway will move all the boxes for us. If we need more shelving units, Matt has a couple of guys at Highway who like doing that and can build us more shelving units. so we can stack stuff up higher. Right now, I'm just waiting for Judge McGinnis to figure out where he's going to put his court reporter. As soon as he gets that taken care of, then we'll start the move.
Have you started the process yet of moving the papers or not?
No, the papers have not been moved yet. We're stuck with waiting for the judge to make his final decision on where the court reporter goes. Because court staff is involved, I've involved the judge in every part of this decision and let him take care of his own people. We want to upset the court as little as possible too.
I thought we had a different location for those papers.
We did, and that's not going to work out. We were going to put them at 514. I'll be honest, that building needs to be burned down. The basement there where we were looking at putting them, the old storm sewer for the city runs right through that basement, and you can see the water trickling. So there's too much humidity in that basement to store papers. So that building is not a viable solution. It's not a viable solution for the county going forward either. I mean, we're going to have to do something within the next few years. I don't know what that means, buying a new building and sticking all of HHS and maybe some other departments in it and selling that building for $1. So we don't have to pay for any repairs, but.
They were talking about having, because a lot of people are working from home. They were talking about having space to rent. Was it in that building?
Sanborn.
Oh, it was in Sanborn building.
Yeah.
Is there any way we could move who's ever there?
No, it's the Great Lakes Intertribal Council.
Okay.
And we're not messing around with them.
Okay.
So I'm hoping Judge McGinnis is able to finish his stuff in the next week or two, and then we'll get Matt to start moving stuff.
Have you done any wiring to see if there's any federal funding available for a big government center here?
There could be some CDBG money for that. But I'm going to tell you the cost of building a new campus for the county is going to be at least $15 million, if not more. And then you come up with the question, well, what do you do with this building? This is a beautiful historic building that, while it needs some work, it'd be a shame for the county not to use it. And I'm not sure if $15 million is something we really want to spend at this point until we get our budget sort of figured out.
Well, the key to that is find funds that aren't matched.
Right.
If that's possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in that infrastructure bill that's coming out. In fact, I was talking to Matt about this yesterday. There is going to be a little over $1 billion directed towards Wisconsin counties and municipalities over the next 5 years. It comes out to roughly $225 million over each year for the next 5 years. So Matt is actually submitting a grant proposal right now because it's due at the end of the month. The feds gave us a nice timeline to do one of our roads. He's also going to be submitting stuff for 23, which is due at the end of February. Right now that money is just highways, roads, water, sewer, broadband. It's just those kind of things. There's not actual complex dollars in that. So our best avenue for that would be CDBG.
Yeah, just like a reminder, the talk of having a new building, and we looked at this. I don't remember how long ago was it that they built the addition at the high school and redid that. But that year we were looking at building a new jail and a complex, if you will, to roll health and human services in, as well as the court system. And we estimated it was around between 10 and 15 million that we would have to spend to do it. And we as exec and finance committees looked at it and said, there's no way we can ask their taxpayers to do that at this time. Ironically, that was the same year that the school asked for the referendum for the field house and received it. And, so, I mean, hindsight is always perfect. But it's good to hear that it hasn't gone up that much. It's only up to 15 million.
Well,
But we do own the land already. If you recall, we purchased land out by Farm Road out there for this very purpose. And at some point, we're going to have to probably do something unless we shrink. And we have lost a little population, but I don't know if it's going to be significant enough. But it's been looked at, and I know that it's at some point we're probably going to have to do it.
Well, let me rephrase my pricing. If you want to include the jail in a new campus, then you better add $1,200 a square foot. Because jails are, or more, actually. No, it's 1,800 a square foot.
We've been paying money out for prisoners because there's we can't house them in our jail.
Yep.
Was there ever any talk about possibly building a bigger jail or adding on to the jail and taking prisoners in so we'd have more revenue? Is there any way we could get some money to do that?
Well, I think if you're really looking at a county facility to also generate revenue, what would generate a ton of revenue is a mental health facility. There's really very few places in the state to send people. If we were to have one up here, it would be filled the second it opened every single day. That's how you raise revenue. And you can charge enough money you can definitely charge enough money to keep your operations going.
Is there any way we could get some type of grant for that, seeing they, that would qualify, seeing they got all this extra money? We could get that, and then, we would be raising revenue.
Yeah, I can look into that. I mean, but that's a pretty big undertaking to do that, but it's how you would raise revenue.
Yeah, we looked at this in the past, and I mean, we're talking back when this jail was first built. That jail was built so that we could house prisoners for other counties, and we did so for a while. Iron County being one of them, in that they did not have a matron, so all of their female incarcerated people came to Ashland. What really squashed some of this, to be honest, and why other counties are less likely to do some of this is the liability issue. And everything goes along fine until something happens and they're turning around, they're suing your jail for whatever it was that took place, and then all the money that you would have made has gone out the window. And not to mention your insurance rates go up.
Yeah.
So, it has been looked at. It also was looked at one point for a juvenile facility, and same thing. It creates greater liability for the county. It also creates greater staffing, in that now you have to have more staff members to take care of what you need.
Right.
One of the bigger issues, and it continues to be, and it hasn't been brought up yet today, is probation holds. And how many of our people over there are in on a probation hold, and the state's supposed to pay us to do that, but they don't pay us our actual cost unless it's gone up. And I haven't looked at this in 2 years. It's like $45 an inmate, and they can hold them. And I forget the exact number of days, like 14 days or something. And then they got to kick them loose, or they got to, revoke them. And, so there's that goes on, but that's a huge issue too. And, at some point needs to be addressed, is probation holds and the state paying their share of it.
Well, we're not doing that right now, largely because of lack of staffing, which is why this whole issue of pay raise for the correctional officers came up, and also because of COVID. The jail is not accepting prisoners right now who are not violent or serious felonies. And even some violent offenders may not be accepted in the jail, because if we have a female violent offender, depending on severity, we may not take them because we have to ship them in Douglas County. So there really is a crisis in the jail right now with staffing. Like I said, a mental health facility is how we could really raise money. That's needed desperately in the state. And But then staffing it's a huge problem. How do we get qualified staff to move up here? I don't know. But I can certainly look into that and see what it would cost and what kind of grants are available. There might be more money available for just that kind of thing because of the desperate need around the state and the country. And I do think we have something to offer quite a few people. I mean, people who like the outdoors and nature would certainly love living up here and affordable living.
You know, Matt, it's interesting that you should have brought that up about the detention center. We talked about that before. There's a hell of a lot of money to be made in that industry. You know, when we board somebody else now for a year, it's $100,000. Is that right?
Well, you know, it's, you know, conservative, you know, 8 to 10 females at about 20,000 a month, which is a very conservative number. So you figure 10 divided by 20 is $2,000 a person per month. So 24,000 a year.
I'm not talking about, I'm
25,000.
talking about people who are shipped away because we don't have the facility or juvenile detention center.
Oh, juvenile detention center.
Yeah.
I would highly encourage the county board not to even consider that. That is a nightmare waiting to happen.
And Dick, if you recall, when we looked at that, there was only, the Ashland County had very few needs for incarcerating juveniles. I think when we looked at it, it was like one for the whole county. And, you know, it doesn't happen as often. You know, unfortunately, when it does happen, it seems like it's clusters. But, you know, it's not a very reoccurring event for us. And that was the biggest thing we looked at, is it just didn't make financial sense for us to build this, other than if we were going to provide a service for it and we weren't prepared for liability on that.
Okay. Any more questions for Dan? Next meeting date's already been set.
Just to
This
repeat,
is Commissioner
February
Berlin
1st
again.
for finance, February 12th, was it? February 10th for executive, and February 25th for county board.
22nd.
Oh, I'm looking, sorry, my calendar was. Yep. So,
February 1st, finance, February 10th, executive, February 22nd, county board.
Lori, are you writing that down?
I already have them on my calendar.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mike makes a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All right, seconded by Marty Vitek. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone who wants to stay longer, you're free to do so. We're adjourned. Thank you.